What in the name of Farmiga? Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And tonight, we're here to talk about the return of a Titan. That's right, fresh off of Bates Motel. It's her first starring role since starring in that beloved and iconic role, at least in Dragon and I's hearts. It's Vera Farmiga's big comeback, Dragon. It's Vera Farmiga's big post Bates Motel. I almost called it Breaking Bad because of the Bryan Cranston thing. It's Vera Farmiga's big post Bates Motel comeback, my friend. It's big. It's epic. She's gonna stop the car and scold a soldier for back talking her. She's gonna stare. It's gonna be so good. Oh, and also, there's some monsters or in it or whatever, This is a monster movie, right, Dragon?
Yeah, it's about some lizard or something, like the gecko or something. I don't know.
All right, in all seriousness, folks, I think it's pretty clear. Dragon, I think categorically, if we were to take, if there was some scientific way to measure people's excitement about Vera Farmiga, my friend, we might be in the over 9,000 Richter scale of excitement. Oh my God, Farmiga is going to be the one to tame Godzilla. It's over 9,000.
Let me put it to you this way, all right? With the first Godzilla, obviously, if people weren't a Godzilla fan, they'd definitely be checking it out for Cranston, because there's a lot of Cranston fans. Breaking Bad is a huge phenomenon. Cranston's been a whole bunch of things. People love Cranston, and they love Godzilla. That's a kind of a marriage made in heaven. Now, we're the only ones who kind of have a Cranston level appreciation for Vera Farmiga. And
I don't want to say the only ones, but Vera Farmiga certainly isn't a beloved. She should be in our heart. She is, but she's
I know Vera Farmiga does
pop culture icon like Bryan Cranston is.
Vera Farmiga does have a fan base, but I don't know if it's quite as
it's definitely not as big as Cranston's. I'm just being honest.
Well, I mean, basically, it's not as kind of zealot as it is with us. It's not quite we don't. You're not going to see the Farmiga altars the same way you'll see Heisenberg altars. Incredibly, unless you go around our neck of the woods.
We made a Farmiga altar for Bates Motel season 5 back when we were doing on-camera stuff.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway, well, real quick though, of course, just want to kind of have to correct you a smidge here. This is the first big kind of more big blockbuster.
I mean, I know she's been in other stuff, but yeah, I'm saying this is the first big blockbuster headlining thing from her since.
I mean, again, she was in The Commuter, and she played opposite Liam. She was the opposite role in that one.
Yeah, I know she's in The Commuter, but I'm saying that wasn't a big movie, though. I'm saying this was, she's going to be in the new Conjuring movie, Dragon. She's going to be in Annabelle Comes Home, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and also Donovan echoes that Vera's more beloved to him for the Conjuring movie. So again, Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, I hear it, Dragon. We need to do. Yeah. Dragon, just seriously speaking off the top here, inside baseball a little bit. Why can't we do The Conjuring? Why can't you just fast forward through the scary parts, man? There's so much love for Vera Farmiga out there. Plus, you got Patrick Wilson. You like Patrick Wilson?
I mean, I like Patrick Wilson. Fine, nothing wrong with the Wilson man.
Anyway,
okay, the point being, we're here talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
All right, so Dragon, my thesis statement on this one, I think the monster movie verse it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Dragon, ironically enough, I mean, it's taking into the account that none of these movies have been shit shows the same way that some of the DC movies have been shit shows. I honestly think this might be the second most successful cinematic universe after the MCU, at least just in terms of tying things together. It's just none of them are great movies, but at the very least, it all feels very much self-contained into its own cool little hypothetical, Pacific Rim style monster verse. It's I don't know. I'm liking the direction it's going. I don't think it's going to last much longer after King Kong versus Godzilla, but we'll see where it goes. My opinions on this movie, though, I definitely like it a lot more than Godzilla 2014. I'll give it that much. Godzilla 2014, as you guys know, well, I shouldn't say as you guys know, all presumptuously like that, like you guys have been watching since 2014. But Godzilla 2014 was a movie that kind of broke my heart. Trigon, that was the big movie that I was championing that year. That was like, and Dragon, as you know, I have a big history of my most anticipated. You want to tell the folks about my low batting average when it comes to my most anticipated movie of the year being disappointing?
I mean, look, in comparison here, I mean, I've had one disillusionment, but Tiki's had several.
You want to I'm curious how many you remember, Dragon.
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, obviously the big one for you, which I still think is like, it may be again, obviously given your huge connection to this franchise, I think it's a little blown out of proportion, given especially where the sequel went. But anyway, no, it's Jurassic World. Jurassic World.
That was a slow one, man. That was like a Phantom Menace style. Like when I first saw it, I was like, "Yeah, it's not that bad. It's good." I still like the first 20 minutes of that movie, but goddamn, does that movie fall apart?
Point being, the main comparison I keep going to is like 1 year, like Tiki's one of the most anticipated things Tiki could ever have is the Jurassic Park franchise, and it coming back with Jurassic World.
It's specifically the theme park, specifically the fully realized theme park.
That's true. And again, like his big anticipated one, and that one kind of blew up in his face. And mine, of course, like the again, while he's having terrible luck there, I have Deadpool coming out. I believe that not within that same year, but I believe the year after I get Deadpool coming out. And of course, that was everything I could have hoped for and more. And of course, Deadpool getting a following, getting a sequel, things I never imagined Deadpool would get. That was just so happy. The point is, like, things were coming up aces for me. Tiki, not so much. But
you know what else blew up in my face was last year. Basically at our 2017 wrap-up podcast, I proclaimed. Do you remember what movie I was most anticipating for 2018, Dragon?
Okay, wait. So you mean the 2018 movie?
Like at the end of 2017, you know, at the end of our 2017 wrap-up podcast, we were talking about like I'm sorry, folks, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's
a little self-indulgent.
It's fun to reminisce. I'm sorry. So you don't remember my most anticipated movie of 2018 because it's really embarrassing in retrospect.
Well, I'm trying to remember here.
We'll be talking about it soon.
Oh, right, Ready Player One.
Yes, Ready Player One. Yes.
I was thinking it had to be early, yeah.
And you know, that wasn't a bad movie. We're going to be talking about it on Spielberg Month very imminently, but it wasn't great. It wasn't best movie of the year material by any means. Even this year, Dragon fucking Us is a movie where it's like, it was fine. It was good. But honestly, I think Ma came along and blew it out of the water. We'll talk about Ma on Movie Memoirs. Jesus Christ, that movie is...
Anyway.
But, all right. Anyways. So point being, Godzilla 2014, big disappointment. This I went in with very low expectations. Very, very, very low expectations. And this movie's got problems. It's definitely got problems. It's, you know, like some of the motivations are just straight up laughable. I think I have a lot of issues with like the over-the-top destruction in the movie. On kind of like a Batman versus Superman level a little bit, just in terms of like, man, everyone would like, it's almost like the nuke the fridge on steroids a little bit with the nuclear stuff in this movie, but we'll get into that with pros and cons. So this movie it's a mixed bag. I think it's got better human characters than the 2014 Godzilla by a long shot. But at the same time, there's definitely some ill-fated decisions in this movie, and I don't know. I like it. Dragon, I don't think you're going to agree on me with this, but I definitely like Kong Skull Island more than this.
All right.
I think Kong Skull Island had more fully realized, well-rounded characters. I think it had more memorable set pieces. This was good. It was good. It's like a solid 7 out of 10. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, my favorite element of the movie is King Ghidorah. I've loved what they did with the live action realization of him. And basically to kind of tease my favorite moments, folks, my favorite moments in this movie is essentially just like a WWE highlights reel of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah stuff. But, I don't know, Dragon. It's not that any of the human stuff is bad. And like I said, it's a big improvement over 2014. It really is. Serizawa has a lot more to do. Honestly, I really like Kyle Chandler in this movie. I like Kyle Chandler in pretty much everything. Of course, Farmiga, she's great. Don't get me wrong. And fortunately, spoiler alert, they don't pull a Cranston on her. They do very much pull a Cranston on another character that we'll get into. But, Dragon, this is a movie that I like just fine. I walked out of the theater and I had fun with it. I was impressed with some of the visuals. It was definitely eye candy. There was definitely some fan service. I am looking forward to King Kong versus Godzilla. Honestly, I think what this movie lacked that Kong Skull Island had was an emotional through line to it. I really felt that the big strength of Kong Skull Island, outside of just the fact that it was a really well done monster movie, and Kong was probably my favorite realized Kong in any movie. I'm not saying it's a better movie than the 30s Kong, but I love the look of that Kong. But what Kong had going for it was the John C. Reilly character. I love the arc of that character. Sometimes a movie can kind of live and breathe based on one character's arc, and I really thought that John C. Reilly in that movie had a really great journey. And some of the other characters around him were really good too. John Goodman was a lot of fun. Tom Hiddleston was a little bit generic, but he was charming. Samuel Jackson played a great bad guy in that movie. We kind of got like a Heart of Darkness thing going on with Samuel Jackson. And with this movie, it's like the characters were likable, like all the actors had charisma. Of course, like you got like the trifecta of Millie Bobby Brown, Vera Farmiga, and Kyle Chandler. They were all charming, of course, led by Vera Farmiga. They're all doing a good, serviceable job. I just didn't necessarily feel like the characters were written as well as the characters in Kong Skull Island. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's good. It's a fun popcorn movie, but I really don't think I'm going to be like, this isn't a big disappointment by any means. Like Godzilla 2014, when I think of that movie, I specifically think disappointment. But I don't know. Like I said, I think this movie's kind of like a serviceable, like 7.5 out of 10. I wouldn't go any higher than that. It's good. All right. I'm sorry, that was a little long-winded. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, Donovan has pointed out that right now he's going to multitasking with Kong Skull Island.
Oh, nice.
All right.
I like that one a lot more than Dragon does, kind of historically. We kind of got into it a little bit on the year that came out.
So, I guess my thesis would be, I think this is good enough. It's good enough, and it's a more true blue. I think it's good enough, and it's a more true blue Godzilla movie, which I think was definitely needed. Optimistically, I'd like to say it's going to please the diehard Godzilla fans, because I think the fan service is what you go to this movie for. It's checks the right boxes in some really classic highlights in kind of the Godzilla franchise. They're kind of coming back in a big way and just kind of realize kind of to their full potential in a way. It looks really neat. In places, I think it's going for some ambitious choices, but they're just not sticking the landings. And I really applaud the ambitious choices that, again, once they were kind of introduced in the trailers and everything. And they're in the movie. I just feel, again, we're talking about some really good ideas, but I really don't think we're sticking the landings, which I think creates more problems than ultimately it's worth. And I feel that's the thing, kind of stewing on it after you see it the first time. Farmiga's performance will only get it so far. Where again, you have compelling performances, sure, but when you really start to kind of noodle,
at least the most compelling performance sticks around for the whole movie this time.
True.
And at least the characters around the most compelling performance aren't planks of wood.
Right. So basically,
you, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm sorry. Shade. Go ahead.
Anyway. So look, there's not a whole lot to it, and that's okay. I just want to make that clear. Is there a lot to it? Not really. Is it cool?
It kind of reminds me of the Incredible Hulk in that it's just kind of like one big action scene for the most part.
I fundamentally disagree with that one, but anyway.
All right, well that's fine.
Point being, not a lot to it, but that's okay. It's kind of a fun monster movie. That's what it is. It's we have some good action in there. I got to be honest, in the whole of the franchise that we've got going on so far, and yes, it is interconnected. It is connected very well. We pave a lot of pipe in a really good way with these. We're connecting them. We're laying track in a really good way. I think they all have a systemic problem that I think is kind of speaks to I think there's a common issue. There's something holding each movie back. In Godzilla, obviously it was, again, like Godzilla, say what you will about that movie, but Gareth Edwards, he's kind of teasing things up in a good way. But primarily, whatever you think about that movie, that opening sequence, the first scene, the introduction, the credit sequence, wonderful. That's great. That's what that movie essentially is going for, and that's all the good stuff. And of course, once we oust Cranston from that movie, problems. But again, so it's kind of like that. And then the
basically,
third act,
that movie, that movie has one of the worst Act 2s that I've seen in a modern day blockbuster in a while.
But again, it is coming from a good place. Like Godzilla movies for many times, they were kind of like the fleeing man on the ground perspective. They're kind of realizing that. And again, Gareth Edwards.
Well, I was looking forward to it. I really was. I was looking forward to it with that idea in mind. My problem is, I just don't think they did enough with it. I just thought there was just long stretches in that movie of just nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the thing. So I mean, they were. That's the thing. Again, the core idea was there, but again, just not quite fully realized. And of course, we have some really cool Godzilla action. So again, there's a balance there, but again, there's a lot of bad that kind of makes it unbalanced in the end. And then of course, Kong Skull Island. Look, without getting into it, the point being, I feel it's a little drawn out, and I feel all of these movies, to an extent, something gets drawn out in some way, shape, or form. Aaron Taylor Johnson in the first movie, we went drawn out there. A little drawn out and just kind of getting to the Kong stuff, and basically I think we're a little too.
Have you seen the Peter Jackson King Kong?
You see, again, the point is, I'm not saying it's easy.
Island does fine getting to Kong, my friend.
Let me rephrase that. I mean, I think my point is, I think there's kind of a theme of convoluting certain things with a lot of this. I think this as well too. This more in the logic of like where we're going with the story. Like, okay, we live in a world with kaijus, and we bring us really interesting topics, and then again, we're just really, we're drawing things out, or we're just convoluting things. It can't just be as simple. Okay, this is happening, and that's the case. This is happening for these big important reasons, and these big important reasons don't make a lot of sense. And I feel that's a problem. You follow me? So I think we haven't quite had the perfect.
Basically, if this movie was, I think. Oh God, you know what I'm just realizing, Dragon?
What?
I'm kind of coming to a terrible realization.
Yeah.
Vera Farmiga's character is kind of the root cause of some of the big problems with this movie on a logic point of view.
Well, I did consider that, Tiki, but I kind of steer towards a character that she's with in the movie. I feel it's more that person's fault than it is hers, but we'll get there when we get there.
Okay, we'll get into it. All right.
Okay, point being, what I'm saying is I feel we haven't quite gotten a perfect movie yet, and like in a perfect world, we'd be able to blend elements from all three movies to an extent. And again, given what the next one is, maybe so. I don't know.
Dragon, I am predicting right now that when Honest Trailers inevitably does a Honest Trailer about this, we're going to have a montage of Kong, Skull Island. Skull Island. It's a monarch base on Skull Island. Kong, Subject 39, Kong, Skull Island. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying they really want you to know Kong's coming up in the next movie.
Right.
Anyways, shoot us with some background.
Hey, here's the background in a nutshell here. So of course, 2014, the 2014 Godzilla did really well. Got a buzz going on there. Did well enough to get a sequel, and kind of again the whole franchisee kind of hook of like, yeah, of course Godzilla goes up against all sorts of things. And this inspired kind of a revitalization and kind of a rebirth of the Godzilla franchise, done again, done here again, just basically trying to wipe away the stain of the '98 Godzilla. Trying to wipe away that stain of 2014, kind of go on where we kind of do a franchise right, and kind of the world we live in now of franchise after franchise and interconnected cinematic universe size.
I honestly prefer '98 Godzilla. I mean, at least that movie, say what you will about Godzilla in '98, but it moves along at a good clip.
But I think it's I agree with that one. Anyway, so the point is the revitalization of the giant monster film, kind of coming back in a big way. And like the closest we've been able to get to the giant monster film, I guess, of late, had probably been like the Pacific Rim films, perhaps, or at least the first one at that point in time. Anyway, so
and Cloverfield.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah.
I would say actually the first Godzilla movie was kind of like more similar in style to Cloverfield, and this is more similar in style to Pacific Rim.
Sure. Anyway, so the point is they bring back the franchise in a big way, and the big payoff ultimately is Godzilla versus King Kong. That's mainly it. So essentially, that's the Avengers of this franchise, and we'll see where it goes from there once they reach that point. It's got a more of abbreviated kind of a cinematic universe plan. And you gotta remember, once this is made, this is going to be the big, at least for the stateside here, is going to be the big, the third big versus film. Think about it in the tomes of the verses of the big case, the big blockbusters. You have Freddy versus Jason, you got Batman v Superman, which that's the movie that let me down, by the way, folks, in case there was any mystery on that one. And then Godzilla versus King Kong be the big third versus.
You're clearly forgetting Alien versus Predator.
Oh, sorry, fourth. Okay. Anyway,
the cinematic masterpiece, Alien versus Predator.
Right. Anyway, so of course, in the meantime, though, breaking up the Godzilla films, we have Kong Skull Island with again the Monarch post-credit sequence. So again, that's kind of setting up the connected universe and all. And we have Gareth Edwards, who directed the first film. At this point in time, in between movies, as we know, in 2016, he had a little film called Rogue One.
ATSTs.
And what did Rogue One do, Tiki?
It broke new ground.
Precisely. So Gareth Edwards,
we were quoting that red letter media video, folks.
Broke new ground.
Star Destroyers. I'm gonna come.
Okay, in all seriousness, so Gareth Edwards, he's busy at Rogue One, and basically his directing commitment to doing a sequel. Again, he wanted to kind of have a one and done, and again, head be open to do sequels, but he didn't want to make movies like, hey, franchise it.
Edwards was like a big monster movie guy. Like his first movie was, oh shoot, help me out here, Dragon. I believe it was just called like Monsters.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's either it's Monsters, plural. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I saw very much like I feel like it was a better executed version of Godzilla 2014 because it was like more modest in its ambitions. Like it was like you saw less of the monsters than you did in Godzilla 2014, but I feel like it was a better kind of like true to like down to earth perspective. Anyways, go ahead.
Anyway. So you had basically in the second go around for the sequel, they wanted Godzilla versus all the iconic monsters, which basically would undo one of the biggest problems from the 2014 version, which was Godzilla going up against kind of a new monster. Why not go with one of the iconic ones? So that was kind of the big thing they wanted to amend and change.
Honestly, it's like if you were to go against a new monster, why couldn't it have been like the cool woolly mammoth in this one or something like that, like some crazy design?
Right. So Michael Dougherty. Directed this. Now, Michael Dougherty, he has a lot of writing credentials. Now, two in particular, I think, kind of give away how this movie turned out, especially with kind of the writing kind of holes in the grander plot and the grander reasoning of things. His big credentials would be writing Superman Returns and X2.
Well, X2 is not bad.
Oh no, you're right though. I'm just one of the. I guess was trying to balance
honestly, Superman Returns isn't bad either.
Not bad, but again, maybe there's some logic.
It's not
to it.
great. It's not great.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe equivalency. Again, I think Godzilla.
It's kind of like the Force Awakens of the Superman franchise.
Well, let's not go that far. Point being, Superman Returns, though. Sorry, what I'm getting at. The point is, Godzilla King of the Monsters probably falls somewhere in between, Superman Returns or next two, perhaps, maybe.
Mm.
Anyway, so basically, the analogy was, it's funny you mentioned Alien versus Predator. The analogy, kind of on the production was, let's go for like this is gonna be aliens to Godzilla's Alien, and the anthology of things. That was kind of their mantra working on it. So. At least that was kind of like the main comparison they're working with, like kind of what they were going for.
I mean, honestly, I can definitely see that. It's much more of an action movie as opposed to the first one was trying to be like a realistic disaster movie.
Yeah. All right, so before we get into it, I just want to read off something from Donovan here. We got a bunch of stuff from Donovan Martin in the comments here. Welcome, Donovan. He's ranked. Here's where he's ranking the cinematic universe of. I guess I can't quite call it the Toho cinematic universe. The gods. I don't know.
Honestly, I call it the MonsterVerse, even though that's like technically, I think the name that. No, Universal was Dark Universe, so fuck it. Let's call it the MonsterVerse. That's free game.
I like the Kaiju verse personally, but anyway. So let's see. He ranks it Kong Skull Island. Number 1, Godzilla King of the Monsters, number 2, and Godzilla 2014 will probably dead last. So subject to change.
I'm right with you, Donovan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's get that's all I really have for the background. So let's jump right into things.
Okay, so let's get into. I mean, do we really have to call her Emma? Can we just skip with the pretenses and just refer to her as Farmiga Dragon?
Well, I thought you wanted to perhaps kind of build to Farmiga with the other basically someone as powerful as Farmiga with Godzilla.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I'm sorry. We don't have that listed here, but yeah, you're right. We do. Okay. So do you want to like we planned? I guess let's quickly go through the monsters, just kind of like highlighting the fighters at play here.
Exactly. I mean, probably going to dedicate the most time to Godzilla. Then everyone else is probably going to go by a lot quicker. So overall, so Godzilla. Let's talk about the big man himself, Godzilla. All right. So
I mean, I definitely think they do a better job with Godzilla in this one. Of course, this is a spoiler cast, folks. So I do think the fake death. The interesting thing about the fake death is that while it was kind of necessary for the plot, I don't really think it was necessary to do the pretense of a death. I think it could have just been like Godzilla was seriously wounded. But regardless, I do think that they do a good job of having Godzilla be a force of nature, but he's still on the I don't know. He's a little bit more anthropomorphized than in 2014, because this is a Godzilla that actively likes to strike a pose. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like this Godzilla is more of a showman.
I kind of see that. I really kind of read Godzilla here. He has a very Hulk-like dynamic with man to an extent here. He really. He just basically likes to wreck stuff and fight monsters. That's really just kind of what this Godzilla is all about. He's just like kind of swimming. He's kind of swimming.
He's always been more of a force of nature than a character. So that's why whenever we get into Godzilla's relationship with man, it's always a little bit I like to think of it more like man's reaction to Godzilla more than an actual relationship. Like, for example, how Kyle Chandler's reaction to Godzilla kind of evolves throughout the movie. You know what I mean? It's and Serizawa pretty much Dragon, forget Sally Hawkins, all right? Serizawa is the one who wants to have sex with a lizard in this movie.
Oh, come on, man. That's not right.
Look, I'm just saying, man, there's some tension going on between him and Godzilla in this movie.
Anyway. No, but in all seriousness, though, talking about Godzilla. So, I mean, that's the thing. I kind of would equate to your standard Hulk, not like the Hulk we have now in the MCU, but nothing against
not
that.
Like
but
the dabbing Hulk.
Yeah, like not quite the dabbing.
Dabbing anytime soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm referring to more like the Incredible Hulk, the first one, where it's just again it's a Hulk. Again, there's a humanity there, and there's kind of an assist quality there. Where again, if you're interested in line, he's going to be your buddy. He's going to help you out. But you're right though. Godzilla, almost like the Hulk in his initial creation, is that there's an atomic, or in this case a nuclear. Well, again, regardless, there's an atomic. There's an atomic correlation which we reflect kind of our society with this character, and that we created him, and that he's kind of, it's about taking responsibility for our creation, and that he's looked to as a symbol a lot in this, and I really do love that quality with Godzilla. We look to him as a symbol even more so than we did the first time. First time Godzilla, plot device is not the right word, but Godzilla was basically, we looked at monsters as natural disasters in the first Godzilla movie. That's essentially how we did it. And here we kind of add a little bit more importance. But again, Godzilla really was kind of heralded and kind of seen in the public eye at the end of that movie, and that's Godzilla's kind of developed somewhat of a following, somewhat of again kind of a mythic status, and that oh my god, the kaiju that kind of saved everybody. Who it's kind of the formation of what Godzilla would turn into as kind of a franchise. Like he's just the monster who comes in. Sometimes he's against us, sometimes he's fighting for us. Dealer's choice.
Mm.
And again, I feel we're here he kind of has the arc of it's sort of Godzilla as the folly of the first film was that we really were kind of not folly, but I mean we were looking at Godzilla from the man on the ground perspective from a distance. Where it's kind of a force of nature that came in, we built up to him, and kind of like the big moment twist: is he going to just wreck things along with him, or is he going to save us? And he really is kind of gone from that to kind of the hero / deterrent for us in the new status quo from the first movie. And that's one of the great things about this movie, the new status quo, that we're acknowledging that we live in a world with a lot of kaijus in it that we're trying to either contain or rehabilitate or just kind of keep on ice. And Godzilla is a factor. He's kind of a free agent who saved our bacon. What do? Again, it's sort of like the Iron Man 2 thing to an extent. Like, well, now we changed the status quo. We have kind of a literal nuclear deterrent. What do we do with this? And I think he commands a respect, and I think he knows that he commands a respect. And and we acknowledge the reality and the implications of all of this. We made him. We made him, but he's our responsibility, and we need to coexist. And he really, I mean, ultimately, I think Godzilla is just kind of his character is very simple. His arc is very simple as far as he is concerned. It's like, wants to defend his title as king.
Pretty much.
And there's a death, and there's a bit of a
dominant alpha.
And there is a bit of a death and return story, which of course Godzilla famously in his franchise he did kind of die in return, and it was pretty similar too. But the only difference is he actually did die during that. But sort of like the body was there and it kind of came back, and we somewhat do a similar thing. So I'm not really bothered by the whole the half death, because essentially it's the same thing. It's just like who can tell? I mean, he's a giant.
I just think it's kind of a cliche.
But again, it is rooted in the history of Godzilla. Therefore, I think it kind of overvotes the cliche in that regard, personally. But that's just
sure.
The point being, the ultimate story, like the whole reason he comes back from death, is a symbol of coexistence, which we'll talk a little bit more specifically of a little bit later on. So the point being, that's really Godzilla's arc, working with man that takes him from. It takes him through a physical arc, but again, he's just really just kind of fighting the other false king. And also, I should bring this up because Donovan's bringing up some excellent points here. I meant to bring this up earlier. Is that Donovan's pointed out that there is a lot of critics are bringing up kind of a religious connotation to Godzilla, and I think those parallels are there because Godzilla definitely has kind of a mythic caliber to him. And this movie does get into the whole kind of the history and the tomes of Godzilla being around since like the beginning of time. We kind of go through the history, and that's all really cool. And with that, of course, like kind of the dying and return story, there's a bit of an allegory there, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I don't think it's necessarily a wrong way to look at it. And of course, like the whole false king, false god sort of thing, like the original versus the anti, with him and Ghidorah. I think it's kind of the main correlation that Donovan's going for there. And I think there again, basically the main argument he's kind of positing is I think a lot of those things he's saying. I think a lot of those things would kind of distract from some of the weaker plot elements. And I respectfully disagree. I think that's cool and that's good. If you enjoy that, by all means, and I see there's some ways to read into that. And again, there's nothing saying that can't be a way you look at it. But again, I don't think it's going to circumvent some plot problems, which we'll get to. But again, in regards to the monster stuff's pretty on the money. Anyways, let's talk about some of the other monsters. A lot more rapid fire here. So let's talk about Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra isn't in the movie as much as I was expecting, but I like what they did with her. I really think that there was kind of like this kind of like ethereal quality with Mothra that wasn't present in any of the other monsters, and that's like exactly what you want with Mothra. I just kind of wish we would have seen the wings in action a little bit more. Honestly, I feel like while the kind of like the praying mantis style legs made sense from like a biological point of view, I feel like they use those in the action sequences more than the wings. And I don't know, it's like like it's just a nitpick, but I feel like we could have got a little bit more giant Mothra wing action, maybe some more like scale shots of Mothra like flying over the city. Like I didn't quite get my Mothra fix in terms of that, but I did like from a writing point of view and from like a thematic point of view what Mothra did with the movie. I thought it was well handled.
Yeah, Mothra is kind of a symbol of kind of really kind of a beauty in terms of the monsters. There's quite a kind of a beauty and kind of an ethereal thing. I hear what you're saying there, and there's also a symbol, again, a symbol for coexistence, kind of a beautiful symbol for coexistence. That's really what Mothra's role is, and again, kind of backup for Godzilla and all that sort of stuff. Basically, Mothra's always been kind of the team up character. It's always been like, they have a bit of a scuffle when they meet. It's more like the Marvel team up, where again it's like, it's Ant-Man and Falcon. They don't really get along at first, but then they become best buddies. Yeah, that sort of thing. But again, in this case, it's more like, yes, Mothra shows up.
Knuckles.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course, you always have the correlation of Monarch and Mothra. It's always been kind of setting up Mothra as of any monster. It's anyway. So it's not a lot. I agree with you. Spending a lot more Mothra in the movie, but as a symbol, I think Mothra works just a little underdeveloped. That's all. And I wish we didn't. Bear in mind, of course, there's a setup there, but I mean, I kind of wish Mothra didn't die. But by the same token, again, we'll see Mothra again. Don't you worry, folks. So we'll see. All
right. So in terms of characterization, I fucking love what they did with Rodan, where Rodan is like, he comes in and he's just like the big man in the room. He's just like flapping his wings, just like tearing shit up. But then as soon as Ghidorah comes into the picture, he's like, yes, master. Yes, master. Like Dragon Andre from Black Nerd Comedy described it as the Starscream of the Godzilla movies, and I couldn't agree more. Starscream being Megatron's sidekick in Transformers, where when Megatron's not around, Starscream's very boisterous, but as soon as Megatron enters the room, he's suddenly it's kind of like the hat's turned on the other head. So I don't know. I don't know if you kind of caught on to that personality trait with Rodan, the fact that he's just kind of like a little bit of a brat when he shows up, and then he's just sort of quickly put in his place.
I gotta be honest, I have like the least to say about Rodan, because Rodan, like,
I mean, there's not a ton there with Rodan. Like I said, I think the thing with Rodan was kind of like our poster child for showing how easily the monsters could flip from one side to the other. How easily they could be influenced based on who the alpha is. I think that's Rodan's role.
Well, sure. What I'm getting at is like historically with Godzilla, Rodan to me personally is like always like one of the least impressive monsters because he's just a pterodactyl. Really, that's it. Really. But I got to admit, though, again, here, this kind of changed my tune on Rodan a little bit, where, I mean, Rodan actually looked kind of cool here. And again, there's kind of like, okay, Mothra versus Rodan. It's a good fight matchup there, I got to be honest. Oh. So, I mean, it's, I
like the fact that Mothra, it was almost kind of like a tag team at the end.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla and Mothra versus Rodan and Ghidorah. It was almost kind of like a Marvel versus Capcom situation.
Sure. And I mean, the big thing for me is I think Rodan had like one of the coolest unveilings where he's just saying he's in this town. It's like, oh my gosh, he's trapped in the volcano, and like that's really cool. So that's Rodan. Basically, Rodan's more of like a surface level thing where you're, oh man, that guy's always been lame to me, but now they kind of made him a little bit cooler and kind of pumped jazzed him up a little bit. Nice. All right, so let's talk about the real.
Yeah, by far the best character in the movie, King Ghidorah. Oh man, I mean, look. I don't want to say much about King Ghidorah because I basically like all my favorite moments are Ghidorah moments, but if there's any reason for me to rewatch the movie, it's basically for all the Ghidorah stuff, man. Ghidorah was always my favorite monster in the original movies. Not to say I'm a diehard fan of the original movies by any stretch, but out of the ones that I did see, I remember the King Ghidorah movie having a specific impact on me. And so to see it done in live action in this way, to see King Ghidorah not only have so much personality, but a variety in his fighting style, which we'll get into with my WWE like supercut, but also just kind of like a personality. You know what I mean? Like I love how the heads kind of fight with each other, and the one head is kind of like the almost the older brother in a way, kind of keeping the fighting siblings in line. It's like that's all great stuff, Dragon. I really thought that King Ghidorah was handled about as well as he possibly could have been.
Yeah, Ghidorah to me, here's the thing, Ghidorah historically for me has always been like, the coolest and like kind of, in my opinion, the arch enemy of Godzilla. He's just so freaking cool. And Ghidorah again, it's like it's 3 heads better than one, and of course he has the wings, and he's got like this tail that works like the arms. I mean, Ghidorah's just cool, man. He's just freaking cool. Anyway, but Ghidorah in this, I really like what role we've had. It's kind of taking something we've always known about Ghidorah, and it's kind of really kind of putting it in your face here. King Ghidorah, Godzilla, king of all monsters. It's a battle of kings.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's kind of like the rival outsider king, again the false king, or again like the anti Godzilla, the Antichrist, if you want to look at the religious connotation to the Godzilla story here. But the point being, we have the false king, the false king from space, and again, I love how I think we represent the mythologies for these characters really well, even though we don't get a whole lot. And I think less is more in this regard. King Ghidorah, he's from space. We don't know how he got here. They kind of addressed the alien thing a little bit. He's frozen in ice. I mean, again, it's kind of like the whole Finn. I forgive all the Marvel references, folks. I'm sorry, but I think technically Godzilla had the Marvel comics, so I guess it's all somewhat relative. I don't know.
Yes.
The point being, my point is like Fin Fang Foom, the Mandarin. That whole story again had like kind of roots in space and everything. The Fin, I forget if it was entirely from the comics, but I mean the Fin Fang Foom in the animated Iron Man show, they had a connection via space and everything. Like Fin Fang Foom was the Mandarin's boss, the big master that he served. It was basically a giant space dragon. That was the whole idea there. Anyway, point being, we'll get a bit of a Ghidorah connect there. Anyway, so the idea, so even this outsider from space shows up and basically is basically our history repeating itself, where again we're tampering with forces we shouldn't tamper with, and we unleash Ghidorah amongst ourselves. And again, that's purely our own doing within this new status quo. We're trying to control things, and it blows up in our face. And again, not trying to control things in terms of like keeping it all nice, in terms of just like we're trying to impact the environment, trying to change things. And that's again, if we didn't learn anything, we didn't learn anything from Godzilla. And that's the sad fact of man sometimes, folks. We don't learn unless we learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And we still don't learn after that. So, of course, he outnumbers Godzilla. He can regenerate, which is so cool. And basically, the biggest thing I want to hit with Ghidorah is that I love that the big thing they really showcased here, I never really thought of with Ghidorah before, is that he's a coming storm. He's a coming storm and a force of nature whenever he shows up. That's the way they track him. Like he's like a raging storm on the radar sensor. And visually, he is taking over the world. Visually, that's what he's doing with this. Like it's like a storm that's kind of taking the world by storm in a literal sense. And I mean I think that's cool. It's a little thematic, and again has like a visual kind of a visual connection. Ghidorah just is nothing wrong with Ghidorah here, folks. Ghidorah was great.
Right. So yeah, like I was saying, Dragon, do we have to call the Farmiga character Emma? Can we just drop the pretense?
Well, I mean, here and there, might call her Emma, but I mean, in our hearts, I think you all know.
Well, honestly, I'll be honest with you, okay? The only reason I don't want to call her Emma is because of the Bates Motel connotation.
Oh, God. Fine, Dr. Russell.
All right. Fair enough. So, the thing I do like about Farmiga in this movie is that she is very morally ambiguous, and it's like the thing that they stressed in the trailers with her, and I feel like it very much came to pass. That being said, her plan is goddamn fucking balls to the walls, bonkers, ridiculous. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not saying the scene where she delivers her morally ambiguous, Thanos scale plan isn't like a good scene in its own right, because it is like Farmiga's acting the hell out of it. But it is fucking ridiculous, Dragon. I mean, my God, Jesus Christ, it is you got to admit here, the logic here is just questionable, and yeah, questionable doesn't even begin to cover it here, folks. I mean, it's our main character wants to do a Thanos snap. That's pretty much all there is to it.
Okay, real quick, because you keep bringing up Thanos. I mean, it just makes you wonder, like, in maybe a multiverse, one could say. I wonder if we did get Lady Death in the MCU.
Oh no!
Boy, if it could have been Vera Farmiga.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
It's never gonna happen. But anyway,
up until Endgame's release, I was still like halfway convinced that Hela was going to show up as Lady Death.
I know we all did. If there's going to be a Lady Death, logically it would have been Hela. But again, the point being, but yes, here's the thing with Farmiga. So Farmiga, she's she plays the conflicted mad scientist, but less mad scientist, more like she is the villain of the piece, which I think is a really good call. We made her the villain, which
I think the other mustache twirly guy is technically the villain of the piece, which is why he's one of the things I have a big issue with. You know which guy I'm talking about.
I know. I'm saying I have issues with him too. What I'm saying is, like, technically she is some.
I feel like if that guy wasn't there and she was really the villain of the piece, it would have been more interesting, because it would have like kind of erased her being kind of like the middleman.
Exactly. I mean, you're not wrong. The point being is, she's kind of a conflicted mad scientist. But again, in essence, as everyone's kind of seeing her, she is somebody, and she's the one pushing the button. She's kind of the villain of the piece. Which, I mean, we've seen her play like a legit villain. And
I mean, she does have a Joker style, like, this is my nefarious scheme, and this is why I'm doing it, like broadcasting it to everyone. Which, like I said, it kind of shows you the power of Farmiga here, folks. The scene itself, the plan is ridiculous, but Farmiga sells the hell out of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if that plot isn't really up to snuff, she does believe it, and you believe it for every iota that she believes this. And that's the thing. That's, again, kind of it's the illusion of the plan making sense, which, again, that scene does kind of sell you. I'm like, well, I mean, again, she's
no, here's the thing. It's like, I think that scene, it doesn't sell you on the plan, but you just hit on something. It sells you on the fact that she very heartily believes the plan. And so, like, that's the thing, Dragon. I love that the plan isn't framed as like some big heroic thing. I love that all the other characters in the movie are like, this is fucked up. You should not do this.
Yep. Yeah, so essentially, this character, she believes in coexistence. So again, coexistence is the big theme. That's the big lesson of the movie that really has to be learned. I love that we're kind of broaching it from a few different angles. Like, she believes in coexistence, but she proactively wants to change the status quo. Basically, she's trying to. Her trauma of losing her son, has kind of made her want to fast forward this plan of coexistence. She wants to take advantage of the status quo to make sure more innocent people don't instantly suffer from it, like her son. But again, she's kind of lost the thinking of that along the way. It would seem.
So her solution is to kill thousands and thousands of people.
Well, to be fair, she does. In all fairness, her real plan, again, she wanted to get everybody to go into the underground Monarch bases. Yeah,
that's true.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point being, like, she wants to fundamentally change the Earth against everybody's will, whatever everybody wants. Like, no committee, nothing. So she's kind of letting nature rule out, because that's the way. Again, she's kind of like a Mother Nature sort of thing. Kind of gives credence to her whole poison ivy, Vera Farmiga thing to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so again, she is motivated by loss. She's motivated by again, she is very. I do like, if you are to make like a Mother Nature parable there. It's like the whole, like, again, like, she's very motherly. It's a mother who's lost a child and also trying to maintain a relationship with the other child. So, like, the motherly instincts are her driving force. And I think that really is kind of selling you. I think that it really is selling the character as well. It's that, as well as the fact she believes in her cause, even though her cause is nuts.
Yeah.
Again, she's changing with the whole loss thing. She's trying to change.
That is kind of, like, Norma Bates did have nuts motivations at certain points as well.
That is true. I mean, like, she did want the simple things in life. Though she wanted a pool, She She wanted to pull when she.
Yeah, right. It's like Norma Bates. I shouldn't say she had nuts motivations. It's just she herself was nuts.
You gotta remember, she only wanted really, in the grand scheme of Bates Motel, if you really think about it, Tiki, she really just wanted like to get rid of a sign, and she wanted to have a pool.
Well, the sign was the symbol of she wanted to get rid of the bypass, but I digress.
That's what I'm saying. Like she just wanted to. Well, do you know what I mean? Like again, she points to like, she wanted to
You
get rid of
piece
the
of shit, you
bypass.
sign!
The sign didn't help. That's all I'm saying. The point being, she wanted to get basically she wanted to fix the. She wanted to get rid of a road. That's a lot more manageable than getting rid of. Essentially, to transform the entire planet. Anyway.
Oh god!
Anyway,
At the end of the day, Bates Motel does kind of boil down to a real estate dispute.
that is pretty much it. Yeah, and it's one that from the get go we know does not happen.
Right.
Anyway, so the point being, what I'm getting at here is again, like she's motivated to protect the planet for the next generation by kind of restoring it to a new natural place of coexistence. And again, emphasis on she presumably, and again, this is one of my problems with the movie. We don't know all of this 100%, but presumably the idea is that we're going to use the orca to kind of make the kaijus our bestest buddies, and basically when the Earth's set anew, we're going to be able to coexist with them without anyone getting trampled or smashed, or everything's going to be fine. It'll work like gangbusters. So there's that.
All right, so let's talk about Madison.
Madison.
Of course, Millie Bobby Brown. What do you think of her, Dragon?
Well, first of all, I love pairing. I love the mother-daughter pairing of Vera Farmiga and Millie Bobby Brown. Two really wonderful
TV titans.
Yep. Two and again, wonderful actresses in their own right. And again, I could buy them as mother and daughter to an extent. I could buy it, and that's the thing. I think they, think they have the chemistry. And more accurately with the Madison character. Yeah, I thought she did a really good job with Madison. I don't think Madison had a whole lot to work with. I think she did as much as she humanly could.
I think the only thing with Madison really is just the fact that she's kind of like the human connection tethering Vera Farmiga to reality.
Exactly. So again, I think she's doing everything she can with the role, and again, I think she's doing a good job with it. It's she essentially she's a kid caught in a divorce due to tragedy. Again, the tragedy is kind of like I'm not saying
divorce. Where have I seen that before in a summer blockbuster? Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, kid caught. Anyway, so you have a kid caught in a divorce due to the tragedy via a kaiju attack. So that's kind of the hook of it all there. That again, like her brother was killed in a kaiju attack, and basically she's the only character. She's the one who found the balance. She's constantly trying to maintain balance within the family. She's trying to keep her family together, who've gone diametrically opposing directions. One is going like literally the path of the lone wolf, and the other one is going the path of like let's bring everybody together. They couldn't be more different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you take someone from Game Night, you take someone from Bates Motel. It's like that. We're talking that diametrically opposed. Anyway, so
Kyle Chandler. Kyle Chandler is also a TV titan. He's the Friday Night Lights guy, Dragon.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I never watched Friday Night Lights, but I should, given my love of Kyle Chandler.
Right. Anyway, so I like that she develops like a healthy, in a positive way with Mothra. She develops a healthy kind of fascination with the kaijus from her mother. Mm-hmm. But again, she does focus on the imperative stakes like her father. Her focus is on family and on lies, and it's kind of on the kind of the direct and on like I gotta. My mother is lying to me, and she can tell me her plans are this grandiose and kind of borderline insane. And of course, again, obviously, her father is like almost killed because of these kaijus, and it's really kind of a lot of conflicting emotions. But again, as the kind of the mother-daughter arc going on there, I'm not sure they quite stick the landing on it, but again, it's there.
Honestly, I feel like if they do explore it in the sequel, I think there's some emotional weight to the fact that one of the last things she said to her mother was calling her a monster.
That's a good line. It's a really good moment. Too, by the way.
In the trailer, but I digress. Whatever.
Well, again, we didn't see who she was calling a monster. To be fair,
yeah, we did. Yes, we do. Go back and watch the trailer.
It was a different. It wasn't the same scene. It was a little ambiguous. Right. It was.
Well, but speaking of which, they kill off our beloved Farmiga dragon. How dare they?
Well, at least it wasn't in the first act, though.
At least she goes out in a blaze of glory, not like Sally Hawkins.
Yeah, she's tough. Remember, isn't she tough talking Ghidorah?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the way I believe. Let's be honest. If it were real life, then Vera Farmiga she'd be able to take down that thing. No question. I have no doubt. Like she just, I keep having this back during like when we were speculating. I just imagine like she's like Godzilla just be like staring her down. She's go like roll up newspaper, like hit him on the nose or something, and just says, "Hey, stop wrecking everything." And he was just gonna dive back down. And let's be honest. I mean, that's how it would really go. I mean, okay, no. In all seriousness, though.
Folks, we're not kidding around here. That was literally our fucking dream fantasy for this movie.
It was. I kind of got it, but it wasn't quite the newspaper thing. But anyway,
God, we are fanboys for Farmiga. It's not even.
We are. Hey, unabashedly.
Not even healthy.
Well, don't phrase it like that. You're making it sound like we want to reshape the Earth or something. Anyway, so let's talk about Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Other Mark.
All right. Yeah, I think I like this guy more than you do.
Look, I think you probably do, but I didn't dislike him in the movie. I think he's fine. I don't know why I'm just kind of iffy on Kyle Chandler. He was fine.
You told me like if anything, the movie has too much Kyle Chandler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, frankly I could take more Kyle Chandler because Kyle Chandler is just charming as all hell.
I think he's fine, but I think he kind of feeds into a problem. Like this guy's a little too good at everything, don't you think? He's just a little
Oh, you didn't think you had that problem with fucking Millie Bobby Brown? I'm sorry. Let's rewind to the part where Millie Bobby Brown is like on top of that building and somehow manages to escape the giant fight scene, Dragon. That was one of the most...
No. That's a different thing, okay? That's just she's lucky to get out of there. That's one example. Everything else, again, we see she is very human. Kaylee, of course, she's like, her instincts to go home and hide in the bathtub, so obviously not that perfect. But my point is that, Kyle Chandler, again, like Mark here, he's the guy, he's kind of walking into this operation. He's calling the shots and giving the orders. It just feels awfully convenient. Like, again, basically they're pulling the Aaron Taylor Johnson. They're like, hey, this guy knows everything. Let's do whatever he says.
Okay, you're not wrong. But, and you know where I'm going with this, Kyle Chandler isn't a block of wood with a face.
You gotta lay off Aaron Taylor Johnson just a little
bit. I will never
lay
off Aaron Taylor Johnson.
He was not that bad. Again, they're suffering from the same problem.
He was, Dragon. He really was. I'm sorry. I
think it's the writing before it's his fault. It's not his fault.
But I'm saying Aaron Taylor Johnson, just in general, he's like the least charismatic part of Kick-Ass as the title character.
Oh, that's a low blow. That is not fair. Come on.
What about Quicksilver?
Well, if it's only in it for one movie,
right,
it was fine. Anyway, the point is, Mark. I think Mark's just a little.
Okay, my point is like Aaron. You will agree that Kyle Chandler, come on, man. It's like fucking having charisma counts for something, right?
I mean, sure, but yeah, remember, he is, I was going to save this for cons, but you're kind of dragging it out of me.
All right.
Sorry?
I said, all right.
Well, I mean, look,
you want to save it for cons, and just save it for cons.
I'll save it for cons. We'll touch on the negative when we get to the cons. Let me talk about the positive with Mark. All right, I want to talk about some stuff with Mark. Mark, it's basically Mark's character. He's a guy who knows behavior, and he's he definitely has almost like an Ahab dynamic with Godzilla.
He does, and I like that element of him.
And that's good. That is good. He has which eventually evolves to a reluctant partnership with Godzilla. All the stuff between him and Godzilla, I buy. It's good stuff. And he's a bit of a kaiju bigot, but for good reason. He is.
Well, it's again, obviously the Eddie Valiant Toon killed my brother thing.
Yes, it's kind of a cross between Toon killed my brother and a little bit of smidge of Batman v Superman in there.
Uh-huh.
But again, balanced. And basically, Mark. Well, suffice to say, Mark's jack of all trades. He's and he is kind of included into the Monarch world where he's passed the torch to carry on Dr. Serizawa's work with Godzilla, giving this guy, the man who kind of stared down Godzilla. It's a big honor. You know.
All right.
All right. So, of course, like also last thing with kind of the lone wolf, who is kind of given Monarch, and basically Monarch and his own family. That's kind of what I think kind of turns him from the lone wolf mentality to kind of the pack mentality. So a little bit of a character evolution with Marky Boy there. All right. So Chandler's aside.
So Serizawa.
I love Dr. Serizawa.
Yeah, I wouldn't truly like. I shouldn't have made that Shape of Water joke. That was a low blow on my end.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You said that so giddy and sing song like. You
I
want
do
to
like
why you love Dr. Serizawa?
I love Dr. Serizawa. I mean, again, it couldn't be any more. It couldn't be more perfect casting. Ken Watanabe, he's so great as Serizawa. Again, he's one of the best parts of the 2014 Godzilla. He brought again mainly Serizawa had like two really big moments in that movie. I don't know, he was in a little bit more to give it credit for, but I mean, he had those two really defining moments in the first one where he has the the bit where the story about the watch where it kind of stopped when the bombs were dropped. And then, of course, the other thing, of course, let them fight. Serizawa, he's getting there were other, like, of course, him like having that look to Godzilla. Like, again, like his whole life is defined by this character. It's a wonderfully reflective relationship he's cultivated with Godzilla from a distance, and this summarizes everything you want kind of Godzilla to again, it economizes everything, all the highlights from like the human stuff they had done between Godzilla and the human characters in the original Godzilla franchise, which many times could border from ridiculous to just like, okay, well, we had to work humanity in there somehow, right? Just have to see the man on the ground and the giant monster.
Mm-hmm.
But the friendship's real here. I do feel that there's a friendship there. There's a respect. There's a mutual respect. He's and I love that Serizawa. The best thing with this character is that he's the one guy trying to atone for man's mistake, for mankind. Again, the thing that's not even his fault, but again, like the stuff that no one else is going to take responsibility, he will. He's the one who again is arguing that we can coexist, but not through control, not necessarily through control, more like kind of a passiveness. Like again, like he's he's indulging in the Orca thing. He's funding the Orca research. Again, like the Russell family have kind of built for him and everything. Again, because he wants to have a coexistence where we don't have to worry about being killed by these things, so we can work with them. And maybe, I don't know. Again, he's going for a natural coexistence, but again, not rushing it like Russell is. He's found other kaijus. He's isolated them, and again, hoping for one day they could be befriended or kind of made docile. He's kind of going for that because again, they all exist essentially because of the same.
Basically, he's like you're saying, he's kind of like Emma with like a more reasonable outlook, like a more realistic, scientific-based outlook on the situation.
Precisely. And he's an advocate of coexistence, but again, like he's not forcing it though.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to, he's not. It's coexistence by evening the playing field, so to speak. If there are all these, they have like kind of random enemy kaijus. It'd be nice to have a few on our side that are there, and there's like we show a mutual respect,
Yeah.
Of course, Serizawa also has a few guys under his tutelage based on Monarch organizations to shout him out a little bit here. We have Dr. Graham, played by the wonderful Sally Hawkins, albeit briefly.
Yeah, basically, Graham's whole role in this movie is like some minor lines of exposition, and then like a death so abrupt it makes Bryan Cranston's death in 2014 look like a well-crafted, like Shakespearean death.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Dragon, what the fuck was that? Like, let's just be honest here. Like, that was just, man.
I warned you.
I mean, it's. Oh, you want to try explaining it, Dragon? You want to try giving like a verbal reenactment of how it goes down?
Well, in essence, folks, Sally Hawkins. I want to frame it. I want to build her up a little bit here. Okay, so here's the thing. So Sally Hawkins. I remember. Here's
She's in the Kong Skull Island post credits for fuck's sake.
Okay, so let me frame it like this, folks. I mean, look, Sally Hawkins is an actress who, again, like I've seen her in this, obviously, but then of course Shape of Water comes out, and I kind of know, like, oh my god, she's so wonderful. My god, like Sally Hawkins is amazing. Then of course you go to Kong Skull, like, oh hey, look, she's in the post credits scene. They're with this character. After Shape of Water, especially, I've become more invested in who that lady was from the Godzilla movie, and then like, oh yeah, and we're kind of building her up. She's kind of like, essentially she's Serizawa's Coulson for all intents and purposes,
Yeah,
And I'm going into this one with like, oh boy, and Sally Hawkins, she's in the trailer a little bit there, especially at the Shape of Water. Oh man, I can't wait to see some Sally Hawkins in this movie. And of course, she's in there initially just kind of being the confidant, the very respectable confidant initially. Not getting a lot of grandiose stuff at the start. Like, okay, let's see where it goes. And again, she has the hands-on approach in the recruitment and everything. She's overseeing things. Sarah's trusts her, and of course, basically they go to the Arctic. And Ghidorah is set free thanks to much as I love her so. I mean, Vera Farmiga, she kind of contributes to this technically. She Ghidorah escapes, and Ghidorah is kind of wreaking havoc, and unfortunately, basically Sally Hawkins. They're all running away, and
it's just so abrupt. It's like you were describing it to me, and you were like, Tiki, when it happens, I didn't even know what happened.
That's the thing. It's snowing. It's all chaos. Everybody's running away, and basically Ghidorah's like kind of with all the many heads, like kind of snapping at the ground, seemingly eating people. And I can't tell who was who running. And then like someone got eaten because I heard a female voice. And like, wait a minute, was that her? And then I didn't find out until this most insulting part of it here. I didn't know exactly if she was gone because again we saw the other new character that was introduced that essentially is filling her role. Had I known that from the start, I obviously wouldn't have gotten so attached. Regardless, I would have been picked off. But the point being, we reveal deceased. Dr. Graham deceased with Sally Hawkins pictures. Like, oh come on!
Yeah, that was just that. Honestly, I think
at least Cranston got a moment. You saw the body.
Yeah, no, you're right. Cranston, like, he didn't have much to do, but I mean, he got like full scenes of good stuff in that movie before he died.
Good.
Like I said, Sally Hawkins, she's all exposition. There's nothing. She does nothing.
The waste of Sally Hawkins, man. And we've seen what she can do when she doesn't even have to speak.
Oh God.
Anyway. All right, so also let's talk about Rick Stanza. This was a surprise I wanted to see. Were you surprised at all by this guy?
Am I supposed to, like, who is he? Like, am I supposed to know who the actor is?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize him. Who is he?
Bradley Whitford. The guy from Get Out. The girl's father from Get Out. He's in Saving Mr. Banks. He's Bradley Whitford.
I hated him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought I thought like this is the guy that has the terrible line of oh my God, Zilla, right?
Oh man, you didn't like that all, did you?
Dragon, I hated this was just a comic relief character done bad for me. I mean, I hate to deflate your balloon on this. I really do, because it seems to me like for the most part we're pretty in agreement with this movie, but this guy was like, every time he popped on screen, it's like I could almost like predict the pun that he was going to say before he said it. I mean, it was so obnoxious by the end of it. It's like, yeah, Bradley Whitford, sure, he's good in Get Out for sure. He's a talented actor. I'm not taking that away from him, but
also from The West Wing, according to Donovan Martin.
Nice, but I mean, Jesus, it's like I hated the line where it's like, oh boy, we're gonna get some let them fight action. I love it when he says that. Oh, I don't know, man.
Wow, that just surprises me. So, I mean,
I'm sorry. I feel like this might be the thing that we disagree with the most, because by the end of the movie, I was just so sick of him.
I just thought, here's my take. I thought he was just kind of bringing some levity in there. I thought he was going to humanize. Again, his role in the movie was that he was humanizing Godzilla, and again, kind of the bridge, and sort of like the way we were kind of humanizing, anthropomorphizing Godzilla. We were kind of doing that from the ground level with our guys here, saying, it's kind of having, basically voicing the audience to an extent there. Yeah, apparently it was the audience that you didn't care for, it sounds like.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of like a less well done character, a less well done version of the dopey scientist character from Jurassic World. The guy with the Jurassic Park T-shirt.
I know, Tiki, I swear to God, okay, you beat me to the punch. I literally wrote in my notes he's a better version. In my opinion, I thought he was a better version of that guy.
No, I thought he was a worse version because
I'm just saying the point is we had the same.
Guy, like, I'm not a big fan of Jurassic World, obviously, but
I think we've set that up, yeah.
But yeah, right. But I feel like with that guy, he fits into his world more than this guy does. This guy is just kind of comic relief for the sake of comic relief, and like at least the guy in Jurassic World is like he's kind of like both of them are supposed to be audience surrogates to a certain extent. But at least with the Jurassic World guy, it makes more sense to tie into the fan base.
I just think it's so funny that we had the same comparison, but again, still diametrically opposite.
Yeah,
positions on.
I don't know. So sometimes we're just. I'm frankly kind of shocked that you defend him that much. I really didn't care for the writing.
All right. Anyway, so let's move on to Dr. Chen. Well, here's the thing. Here's a weird thing. Again, this is me. Again, I don't know if this is the fall of the movie or just me, the audience member. But Dr. Chen's, because it implies that basically this actress played two roles.
I was kind of lost on this too. I really was.
That's the thing, because I remember her in the movie, but here's the thing. I don't know if the other twin was supposed to be dead and we saw her in flashback or something. The point is, like, she's supposed to be playing two characters. The idea is that she's the two Mothra singers. She's the ceremonial Mothra girl. So that's who she is.
Dragon, I gotta tell you, like I saw in the notes, like you had Mothra twins in the notes. And I was like going in expecting them, but if it is the Mothra twins, man, it's a really subtle version of it.
All I'm saying is, like, remember we have this bit in the movie where we have her saying, "Oh, you're like third generation monarch." We see like her and basically in the Mothra ceremony colors in like the flashbacks. Not in the photos. We see all these photos like their aunt, her twins run her family. It's her and someone else. They're in like the family photos and everything. They're wearing the kimonos and everything. It's the whole shebang.
And honestly, I guess that's one of the things that I feel like we could have done more of with this movie. Is honestly, I would like to see a standalone Mothra movie.
Because that's the thing. I think they're trying to do two things. I think they were trying to have kind of our mother-daughter they're doing the role of the Mothra twins. Where again, they're using the orca using the orca to communicate like you would do the Mothra. And that's kind of the big bonding moment between the two of them. Yet we have this character who's filling the Sally Hawkins role as apparently the Mothra twins, who I gotta be honest has little to no correlation to Mothra at all, which is kind of puzzling.
Yeah, and Dragon, like I said, I feel like a standalone Mothra prequel movie set on the Monster Island, like with these two, maybe would clear things up.
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Hey, and then of course Sam Coleman, just real quick. Thomas Middleditch is in the movie.
Now you see, I don't mind this guy as comic relief as much, and honestly, I feel like he's less distracting than Bradley Whitford, and I feel like his lines aren't as on the nose.
I like Middleditch, and I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I feel like I would take, like, maybe I would like Bradley Whitford more if this guy wasn't there, but I don't know. I felt like it was an abundance of comic relief characters when he really didn't. When this movie really kind of only needed one.
Right. All right. So let's pro-con this thing.
Man, that might be a record for the quickest we've ever talked about a single character, Dragon. Holy shit!
Well, do you want me to really? Do you really want me to? Okay, I could, but do you want me to?
No, not necessarily.
Because I could. I'm just thinking, do you really?
All right, pros and cons.
Anyway.
Okay,
right.
So pros. I want to talk about the score here for a minute. The score in this movie is fantastic.
I really need a second pass to see how I really feel about it. Because I mean, again, I will
Oh,
sidetrack
Dragon!
over.
They bring back the classic Godzilla theme. They bring back the Mothra theme. I mean, that's frankly all I care about, really.
I
Like,
love. I heard the.
it's not fantastic original music, but they adapt the classic compositions in an epic way for me. Like, I love the way they use the classic Godzilla theme.
I'm not saying again. I'm not saying it was unimpressive. I'm just saying I need like a refresher on it to see how I really feel about it. I mean, it was it seemed fine. I'm just not sure how how it really held up. I, Basically, I don't know if it's something like I go back to seek out, but again, I want to listen to it again so you kind of
Oh, I
feel
would
more.
definitely go back to seek out, at the very least, the remix of the Godzilla theme, if anything else.
I mean, that sounds great. I'm definitely going to do that. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like on the first watch, at least, it didn't really quite stick. Because bear in mind, there's a lot going on at the same time. But yeah, and also Don Martin's a big advocate for it. Loves the score. Loves.
Characters might be problematic, but I feel like by and large they're more like they have more of a screen presence than the 2014 characters.
They do. I would say I love the roots and the history of Godzilla. Like for example, the four monsters chosen. Of course, they're from the first. If I can recall correctly here, they're from the first team up from the Godzilla franchise. Basically, when the first time they paired them up, like it was kind of like like a sort of like a team up again. Basically, all teamed up against Ghidorah.
Mm-hmm.
That was it was these four specific monsters, these four specific kaiju's for that for that movie. We kind of brought them back, but also the history, like kind of the mythology of it all. The idea.
Oh yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, I feel like this movie pays like excellent fan service without it being like too on the nose.
Yeah, again, we have a little bit of King Kong thrown in there, just kind of addressing
maybe a little too much King Kong, in my humble opinion.
Well, and the point below, just in itself, the fact that we kind of set up, King Kong's still a thing, we're building that up. But again, we put him in the background. That may be a little too much, but the point is he's in the background. Anyway, other thing. Again, the history of Godzilla, too, like we have like the paintings of Ghidorah versus Godzilla. The fact that these two guys have been enemies for a while, too, that's kind of cool. There's like a built-in history. Like all that, that's the kind of like, like the King, Godzilla's resting place, the place where he just kind of goes to heal himself with this place coated with radiation from essentially for all his purposes, I believe. It's where Godzilla probably licked his wounds the first time during his creation, during the bomb drop. The atomic testing, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, the action, the scale's really good. Scale being the operative word. We're going to see these, like big fights going on here. I heard they brought back an even more
excellent, like poster worthy shots. Like, oh man, like I just framed that as a poster and put it on my wall.
I heard they perfected the Godzilla roar even more so than it already was. Like they got even the very original like the 1951 Godzilla roar. They found a way to kind of salvage it and use that exact roar and just kind of modernize it a little. Let's see. They're having fun with it. I think it definitely is apparent. They're having a lot of fun with in terms of like the Godzilla stuff. The coexistence theme's good. I do love the coexistence theme. We have a great cast. There's a balance of action and the ground level stuff. At least a better balance of it than we had.
Way better balance, yeah.
At the very least, a better balance in 2014. We have a proper foe in King Ghidorah again. Like when they did the first Godzilla, the foe. If I could have any Godzilla foe, it would be King Ghidorah, and we finally got him. So it's the kind of accomplishment of Ghidorah. Like yes, finally a proper challenge for Godzilla. All right. Let's see. They get some cool franchising, as I mentioned, with Kong and the Ghidorah. Well, more on that later. The Ghidorah setup, I should say. The post-credit scene was really like that. All right. Okay.
All right. Dragon, as good as the shots are, and as iconic as some of the moments are, I got to tell you, there's some green screen work in this movie with the when the humans are composed against the monsters that look really shoddy. I don't know if you were noticing it, but for me it was kind of a reoccurring thing whenever a human was in the same shot as a monster and the monster was in the background and the human was in the foreground.
I didn't quite notice that, but real quick, I want to backtrack with a pro that Donovan pointed out with the roar. It says, I don't know if you've heard, but they used the original roar once he showed up at Fenway. So that's when you hear the original
Gotcha.
Godzilla rules. That's cool. Also wanted to mention too, again, the whole placing Godzilla and the continue the kind of the track that we laid out, Godzilla in the real world, and kind of questioning the implications of in a world with kaijus. That's kind of cool. Anyway, so back to cons. Okay. So okay, let me cover the big ones here. Big one. Okay, these are the big story problems we got to talk about here. Colonel Alan Jonas. That's our kind of mustache twirly bad guy. At least our beard twirly bad guy. Whichever way you want.
Yeah, he really didn't. It pissed me off even more that he was the center of the post-credit scene, Dragon. He really didn't need to be there.
Let me tell you, okay, so basically, I would say that all the biggest story problems.
Straight out of, like, Dragon, you know, I'll sum this up in a nutshell for you, and I think you're going to agree with me. This guy feels like one of those rich billionaire assholes who would be at the dino auction in Fallen Kingdom.
Tiki, I'm going to say he feels that way, but he feels like an even more unrealized version of one of those guys. Here's why. Okay, so this guy is, again, I think all the in terms of plotting, again, I think Farmiga's character, suffers because of this guy, because of this guy. This whole plan, this bad guy play, again, it hurts. This is the biggest blemish on the movie as far as I'm concerned. This is the reason I can't just oh man, I had a lot of fun at this movie without having a moment of I had a lot of fun, but
yeah.
This basically he's the embodiment of convoluting of convoluted and pointless. All right, because this character seemingly here's the thing. I think what they're saying, emphasis on think, okay? Emphasis is that what happens here is he breaks into the Monarch facility. He takes the Russells hostage, and he takes the Echo, and he's basically aligning their interest. Again, on one, it's so unclear because at some point it says you and I want the same things, and Russell's just going along with it. It's like, well, she's going along with it, but it sounds like he's making it sound like they've been in cahoots with each other. It's like, we know that's not the case. I would hope that's not the case. Otherwise, she would have condoned murder. Because the guy did he have to shoot everyone in the facility? Just shooting, just killing everybody in the facility to capture them, to grab the Echo. And again, it's really unclear. It's just really unclear, what exactly he's going for here. And this is where we get into the Jurassic World territory with this guy big time. In that, he's trying to. I looked this up. I had to look this up because I still have no idea. Here's what at least it says they were going for this. I didn't see any of this in the movie, if I'm being frank, until the post-credit scene. The idea is this is a guy who would he's been salvaging stuff from the kaiju battles and he's been trying to Pacific Rim the place. Remember in Pacific Rim you had the Ron Perlman characters and
oh man, I really didn't get any of that at all.
That's what I'm saying. Essentially, that's what they're going for. It's kind of like a cross between that and kind of our military stuff in Jurassic World. We're trying to weaponize the new genetic creations. We're trying to he's selling kaiju parts in the black market, kind of like Pacific Rim. And that's why he's at the thing at the end. That's why he finds the Ghidorah head at the end. So that's what they're going for, and we don't know that until the very end. What the?
Like I said, the main purpose for this guy throughout most of the movie is just bad guy who's keeping the main characters hostage.
And here's the thing. One, I don't think this guy needs to be in the movie at all, because again, we could have just had a more of a corrupted idea with Farmiga. It would have been a little bit more interesting. At least I know for a fact she could have played that. You and I know for a fact she could have played that, and she could have made it great. But again, the fact is now we've convoluted because we don't know, is she being manipulated? I mean, they both do want the same things.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That is very muddy.
Is she calling the shots anymore? It's she's pulling a gun on him. Yes, she is not dying. What is happening? I can't follow one of them. It's the epitome of convoluted. But yet again, if they were to do some of that again, hopefully a Jurassic World thing done better. Because I loved in Pacific Rim with Ron Perlman. If they did that, it could at least it would have justified him being there. And again, it would have played into the status quo stuff I like. But again, we'll never know because that's really not apparent. And again, it sounds like with the Ghidorah stuff in the future, that could be interesting. But again, they really lost my business what they did with this guy, and then you got brought down.
Hey, Dragon, I'm gonna I can't emphasize this enough. I even said this. I said this loudly enough that I'm sure several people in the theater heard me when the theater lights came on. Godzilla movies don't need human villains.
And that's true. Tiki, you hit it right on the head. That's the bare simple fact of the matter. Okay, we don't need human villains.
That was the post-credit. Dragon, I was totally ready to see Kong, all right? I was totally ready to see Kong.
I know, me too. I was like waiting for like. So speaking of which, let me bring up another thing. So with the the way they handle the mid credits kind of bugs me. And here's the thing: I'm fine, but I don't mind a subtler sort of thing because we had that with Big Hero 6. Remember Big Hero 6? We had the credits going on. We kind of saw a little bit of a sequel for Big Hero 6, which of course we now have in the TV series, where you saw things, and that's essentially what they did here. We had big.
It weirds me out seeing clips of. I'm still like, now that I'm so used to the TV series Big Hero 6, I'm like. I've become unused to the 3D version.
So here's the thing. So again, we had that, and again, that kind of had we got to see the story that follows that movie.
Yeah.
Here's what happens once they become Big Hero 6, and that's fine.
I mean, they did that in Kong Skull Island as well with the home movies of John C. Reilly.
Sure. That's more of like an epilogue piece. What I'm saying is here, this is all important setup here, and we're just kind of doing just kind of like again, look to the discerning film goer. Yes, okay, if you're following this franchise, and you want to know what happens next, and you're just kind of waiting for stuff that you know you're waiting for, then sure, again, if you really pay attention. But a lot of times people are just going to glaze over, check their phones, like how much time is left in the movie, how long do I have to wait till the post credits, and they're not going to pay attention to this stuff. And they're missing big details like, okay, Mothra egg still around, which means Mothra died, but Mothra's coming back.
Right.
King Kong, and the last thing we set up was, Godzilla versus King Kong. And, that's a big important thing. But again, it was a painting. I mean, that's cool, but we saw nothing.
I mean, wasn't that the big reveal at the end of Kong Skull Island?
I mean, pretty well. I mean, it's kind of, yeah. It was a little. I mean, that thing Kong Skull Island had a better setup than that, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point being, I think the mid-credit scene was a bit of a misfire. Because that's the thing, it wasn't a scene after that. It was like that, and then you have to wait. And again, if you weren't waiting until that very end, then you were screwed.
Okay, I'm going to get to a big con here. I think the destruction in this movie is like 10 Batman v Supermans.
Well, I mean, I don't think destruction in a Godzilla movie is necessarily a bad thing, though.
No, but I am saying I hope that in the sequel they address that basically half of the East Coast got leveled. I mean, that's the damage we're talking about here, Dragon. Like once we get to the final fight, there's just it technically takes place in Boston, but there's there is hardly anything left. It's just like Boston in itself, there is no Boston after this. Like, I hope they address that in King Kong versus Godzilla. Like,
I gotta be honest.
At the very least, they can't have Boston has to be fucking leveled, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, if they don't address that in the sequel, then I think that's I don't know. It bothered me.
Of course, Sally Hawkins. We basically Cranston, Sally Hawkins, and I think that's a
yeah, for sure. That was
as I mentioned, as we kind of mentioned through the bad guy again by proxy. Emma's headspace, the Emma Russell character, headspace. It's a real hard sell in getting into her headspace for her choices.
If it wasn't for Farmiga, I don't think we would buy it nearly as much.
Look, if we're being frank, then yes, that's the point. But again, you believe she believes that, and that's what the sell is. But again, literally after that scene, says, "Oh man, what a."
Honestly, after that scene, she kind of disappears from the movie a little bit, to tell you the truth.
I mean, pretty much, and that's the thing. We just don't quite get what what she's the headspace is in the whole. Why would she free Ghidorah? Basically, it all hinges on that one moment. Why on earth would she just free Ghidorah like that?
Yeah.
And it's a big moment too, where it's again, literally Kyle Shino just kind of swoops in, gun drawing and everything. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna save my family. Come on, guys, guy holding me hostage. Let's get out of here." No,
not even Millie Bobby Brown wants to go with him. No, I
don't. What the heck?
This eternal earthly evil that go with you, Dad. Sorry.
What is going on? That's what I'm saying. There are too many moments like that in the movie. Those are the moments that gotta stop. They kind of put a pause in my enjoyment. It's what is happening?
Right. I totally hear you. I really do think this movie is it's way better for sure, but there are some elements of it that kind of fall in line with that sort of like Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom. Like really, this is a plot line.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, so with Mark. So Mark, again, little too handy and lucky. More accurately, it's Kyle Chandler trying too hard. Now, I don't think it's Kyle Chandler. I'm saying his character is trying too hard, and that he's just like, man, he just really wants to be, again, he wants to be proactive, wants to be involved. There's literally a scene where Thomas Middleditch is like going out there, like, how are you going to help?
Uh-huh.
How are you going to do anything? I have to do something. Well, yeah, what is the plan? You have to go. We don't even know where they are
I
yet.
like that little moment. I'm glad you acknowledge it. And it's like Thomas. That's why I like him more than I like Bradley Whitford. Is that he is more down to earth. Like
and I know it.
Bradley Whitford to me kind of plays into the stupidity of this movie, where Thomas Middleditch kind of goes against it.
I mean, here's the thing too. I mean, the thing that again, it eventually kind of sold me a little bit on this with the arc with Godzilla. But I mean, for a lot of the movie though, especially in the beginning, there, Kyle Chandler is just he's repetitive kaiju bigot. I mean, we know why, but still, it's like he's just like you're surrounded by people who are going to have at the very least have a vested interest in kaiju's. At the very least, that they're all Team Godzilla over there, and you're the one saying, I should kill them all. He's like the J. Jonah Jameson of. Of kaiju haters, you know? Again, deep down he likes him, but he's not going to say it.
Right.
Anyway, let's see. Let's see. There's no payoff to the hearings at all, which to me is a waste of CCH Pounder, because they got freaking CCH Pounder, the real Amanda Waller, and nothing. Just one scene. Yeah. Let's see. I think it drags out. I think it's dragged out in places, man. Like we have military doing stuff, all the fights going on. A little towards the end there. It's like, let's cut, guys. It didn't need to be that long. Let's cut at least like 5.
I mean, I agree with you. It didn't need to be that long, but it did kind of hold my interest more than 20.
I'll give you that. Well, that bear, I don't know, because you have like I like where the end. I like where the climax ends up on that. It has the same problem. I think it's a little more simplistic in the 2014, where again you have a lot going on. In this one, it's like there's a lot of fire and a lot of like discriminant, like just action going on. At least in that one, it's like okay,
no, I totally. I'm glad you're bringing this up because I totally hear you. It is kind of like that. Again, it's kind of like a little bit of a Man of Steel problem where by the end of the movie, the action is a little bit numb.
Yeah, we're at the very least in 2014, though, it's a little simplistic. We're okay, just trying to defuse the bomb. We have that cool shot where, Godzilla kind of saves him, and that's about it. It's pretty simple.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, let's see. I think that's... Oh, also, one thing is with the marketing and with how the movie turned out, I think it's tell me if I'm crazy here. I think it's lacking a bit of the artistry that the trailer promised. What do you think?
What you mean the whole like over the rainbow? Like, yeah, I think the only thing that even measures up to that at all is Mothra.
That's what I'm saying. Like outside of Mothra, it feels like I expected a little bit more like grandiose beauty in monsters fighting each other. And I think monsters fighting each other. That was cool, but it feels a little bit like a marketing miss.
Shots though.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we get cool shots. I feel like I don't know. I'm not saying classical music had to play behind everything. I don't expect. I don't know.
I really do think that's what it measures up to. I feel like as soon as I saw the Over the Rainbow trailer, I was like, oh, this is just good. This is like trailer manipulation 101 right here.
Yeah, so it wasn't like dead set on like getting it. I just thought it was really indicative of like what we were kind of getting. Like I don't know. Okay. All right. That's all I got for cons, unless you got anything else.
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
So, moments, Dragon?
Yes, moments. Okay, so my moment actually literally at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
So we have
first thing you see, literally the very first. Is it literally like the opening shot?
Yeah, it links up to 2014. Yeah. So literally, we kind of pick up from a different angle of the 2014 Godzilla. I gotta be honest, I kind of got the closest thing I'm gonna get to my wish list being fulfilled for the movie at the very start of the movie, and I was like, oh man, this is a good sign. I was like, man, this is a really good sign for how the movie's gonna turn out for me, because the first shot was of course like we reveal the Russell family, and then the son is kind of lost in the destroyed house and everything. Point being, the kaiju battle between Godzilla and the Mutos had a cost. We're kind of seeing from the ground perspective, which again, this is checking off all the right boxes for me. And then we get the thing I really wanted, which is again, is kind of like a little, again, as silly as it sounds, in essence, I want kind of a Farmiga versus Godzilla moment in my vanity. And we did get that in kind of a Batman v Superman way, where we have kind of like the angry Bruce Wayne looking up at Superman. I blame you for this. But I like that we take it a different angle, though. I like that it's Farmiga looks up, and it's not anger at Godzilla that she feels, but it's like, she takes in the presence of Godzilla, and that's her moment of inspiration of, I can't let this happen again.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like her, the way she looks up at Godzilla there, it's a great moment. All right. Next one for me, big one. Okay, the death of Dr. Serizawa. Again, I love what Watanabe does with this character. As Donovan had said earlier, again, he is kind of the philosopher of the film, which, again, pretty much I think is kind of Serizawa's role in general, like not just in this franchise, but Serizawa, the character is, kind of the philosopher in Godzilla's corner, the friend, the confidant, the one saying, we created Godzilla. He's our
in a way, the James Gordon.
Yes, and we did have a very Gordon-y send-off here, which I did appreciate. No, in all seriousness, though, I love that it was just really, these characters have been in each other's lives, like the one named Godzilla character, the one that everybody knows. If you know Godzilla, at least you know the one important human character. It's Dr. Serizawa. You do. And these guys have been in each other's lives for so long, and we've built a bit of a friendship and a history and a respecting. And the only guy who ever gave Godzilla the proper respect he deserved. He's always rooted for me, let them fight. He's always put all the faith in Godzilla, and of course it's the save Godzilla. He's going to give his own life, which is very ill-advised. He gives his own life not even to necessarily save Godzilla's life, but to kind of supercharge him so he can save the day one last time. And Serizawa goes there, and again, like in the radiation, has a moment that he would never have otherwise. Where Serizawa, again, he walks up. It's almost like that. It reminded me of that scene from Courage the Cowardly Dog, where he kind of puts the light bulb back in the sun. It reminds me a lot of that, where Serizawa is in this. He's in a radiation suit. Of course, like he's a goner. There's no way he's getting out of there. He knows that. And he walks up there, takes his helmet off, and he goes up to Godzilla. He's like passive. He's recharging with the nuclear energy. He goes there as the bomb's about to deploy and about to kind of basically go off. It has to be set manually. And he puts his hand on Godzilla's kind of snout. He puts it on Godzilla's face and his nose, I guess. And he just says, essentially, he says, "Goodbye, old friend." Oh my God, it was so beautiful. I was like, oh, don't kill Serizawa, but it's such a beautiful moment, indicative of everything. It's the whole he died for our sins moment, but with Serizawa, oh, it's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, I think love all the execution of this. I love the ancient. Like the recharging chamber really felt like something ancient. It almost kind of felt like something out of like H.R. Giger or something like that. Like that kind of like. Like way, way, way older than anything man could even comprehend kind of feel of the room. I love the sentiment of him taking off his mask, to fully embrace Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, Dragon, I love when Godzilla reemerges. That is the first time that we get the theme song played in this franchise, and that was a fucking awesome moment for me.
That's appropriate. That really is. So again, it's a thing. To me, it's the most beautiful scene in the movie. If I had to pick one scene, it would be the Serizawa death. I think that was the most. That to me was like the best thing that they did in terms of like character love and what's indicative of. Basically, that summarizes the heart of what they're going for with these Godzilla movies. That moment there, where again, the coexistence and what again, man and monster can get along. They can have like a moment of civility.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it's beautiful. All right, so the last one for me, quite simple. I already mentioned the whole the stare down between. I already mentioned the stare down between Kyle Chandler and Godzilla. That to me is my favorite Kyle Chandler moment. The whole thing, if I'm being frank, is where he stares him down because I just love I love the man monster. Man monster thing's kind of my runner through the Godzilla movies. But again, that's the main reason of like we've had Godzilla fighting monsters for years and years with the classics, and of course, yeah, we can do a lot better now. But the fact of the matter is, the thing that always stunk in the Godzilla movies for the most part was like. The human nerve. We always kind of downplay the human thing. It's just I don't know. I shouldn't say it always stunk, but the point is like I guess the American audience looking into the Japanese films, there's always like a disconnect there, And that's the thing. Like these movies,
sometimes there's literally a disconnect because a lot of the times it's like American footage shot for the
with the whole Steve Martin thing.
Footage, you know what I mean? So
the whole Raymond Burr, Steve Martin thing. Yeah,
like there's kind of like a complicated world of Godzilla edits out there, Dragon.
And that's what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is, like, there's always tampering with it, or it's either a disconnect or tampering. There's always it always feels disingenuous if you look in the original Godzilla movies. And that was the fingers crossed, the thing that, these new movies would hopefully get right, where we have like a compelling human story. And again, you can see they flounder at times. But again, these were like those fleeting moments, and I think we've gotten a few of them in this movie. We have like Serizawa, of course. Serizawa is always he's a Godzilla character. That doesn't really count for what I'm going for here. But like again, Kyle Chandler bringing like one of those moments where you get like the man monster type stuff, and that was a great moment in itself. There, he just kind of stares him down, he kind of earns Godzilla's respect, and of course he kind of scares everybody with the whoosh of the tail and everything. Anyway. But very simply, my other favorite moment, personally, another Farmiga moment, folks. So in the climax where they're looking for, basically they have like a few minutes before Godzilla goes supernova on you. He goes like kind of full nuclear meltdown, which again is kind of before he blows up, for the energy that he's absorbed thanks to Serizawa's sacrifice, he's going to detonate, which again is borrowed from the original stuff, Godzilla, which is cool.
I thought that was a clever ticking clock device, by the way, because I like that the hero's plan worked a little too well.
I know, right? Yeah. Again, borrowed from the original stuff, but also again a better ticking clock than the bomb's going to go off. It's
yeah.
Anyway, point being, I love so they're looking while the ticking clock is running down. They're looking for they're looking for Madison, and they're driving this Humvee, and the soldiers are involved. And and basically Vera Farmiga is driving. So Emma's driving, and we have the soldier in back saying, "Oh man, if I were." Man, if I were your kid, between the two bickering parents, like, we don't know where to look. We don't know where to look. It's all your fault. It's your fault. That whole thing. It's just, oh man, if I were your kid, I'd run away too. I don't blame her for running away. And basically, Farmiga then the most Norma Bates moment she has in the entire. This is purely for vanity. Is it great? I don't know. I don't care. It's just all vanity. It's all Vera vanity, folks. Where it basically just stops the car immediately. Like it pulls over it. Wounded man in back and everything, just like pulls over, and again, what did you just say? And again, so
I like that it's like a teacher like kind of calling out a smart mouth in front of the class. It's like she makes him repeat it.
So that's the thing. So so the real reason, of course, is that she basically got an idea. But I mean, honestly, just on the surface, like she stops the car, and as an audience member, like, oh my god, they got a Norma Bates moment. She just stops the car, and then she turns like, what did you just say? It's like, oh, good, yeah, that's why we love her. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Okay, so I guess, folks, with me simply because Dragon took the other big moment for me that I really wanted, which was the Serizawa death. I'm just going to go into the Godzilla versus King Ghidorah highlight reel. All right, 4 moments for you folks. They're going to go by really quick, but it's just kind of like awesome, sort of like flash in the pan action stuff between the big G and King Ghidorah. So first of all, Dragon, this moment was all over the marketing, but I just love it, and I think it plays very well in the context of the actual movie. The round 1 fight shot. You know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this, right?
Well, yeah, you're talking about the Arctic thing, right?
Yeah, like the big wide shot where it's like Godzilla and Ghidorah on either side of each other.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
Like if Edgar Wright was directing, there'd be a big fat versus in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
I just love that because it very much like sets the stage. And then during the main climax, Dragon, there's so many cool moments with Ghidorah. Specifically, I love the moment where Ghidorah gets charged up by the power lines, and he just unleashes like this flurry of lightning. Like that was just a cool move. And then of course, Dragon, this is just a fucking savage move right here, man. He takes Godzilla, and he literally like lifts Godzilla up into the stratosphere and drops him down. I mean,
and Godzilla falls so fast. He's burning on re-entry.
I mean, that is like, I'm surprised more people aren't talking about that moment. Like that is like some Thor Ragnarok, like heavy metal album cover stuff right there. And then very simply, Dragon, I love the moment where it's like, of course, after Godzilla's nuclear breath goes off, the nuclear blast, the camera pans in the rubble, and then like, this is great, Dragon. I thought this was so clever. It's like, oh no, Ghidorah's still alive. It's almost like a Gus Fring, you know what I mean? It's almost kind of like a face-off shot almost, where it's like, oh no, nothing's gonna kill this thing. And then like, oh wait, it's actually one of Ghidorah's heads in Godzilla's mouth. And then to top it all off, Dragon, Godzilla doesn't just eat the head. Oh no, he atomic breathes the head into oblivion.
Oh yeah.
That's just fucking great, man.
It is indeed. Let me read off a few of I'm sorry, was that the last? Yeah, that was the last of them, right?
Yeah, that was the last one. Just like I said, just all in all, I just thought the action stuff and the visual stuff they did with Ghidorah was like very, very on point.
Let me read off some of Donovan's favorites here,
okay.
Real quick here. Of course, he loves Fire Godzilla.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool for sure.
Okay, let's see. Give me a second here. Basically, there's a lot of love for the Serizawa scene as well. Okay. Basically, I really love that moment to basically see how Dr. Serizawa's sacrifice meant to him and forgiving the humans. Basically, I guess that's kind of like the main takeaway there. Point out a little fun fact, by the way. Did you know that you remember the radio scene from the bunker in the trailer there, where Millie Bobby Brown she's kind of playing with the radio.
Yeah.
Apparently, I was looking for that too when I was watching the movie. And I guess that was cut out.
Dragon, at this point, I'm so used to trailers cutting out stuff that I'm almost conditioned to not even notice it.
Yep. All right. Okay. That thing's about it.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I listed off 4 moments. That should be plenty.
Let's do some brief spec on the future here. So as Donovan's pointed out as well, of course, 2020. Godzilla versus King Kong. There's expected to be like a Comic-Con trailer this year for it. So the point is, we know what the next movie is going to be.
And goddamn it, they held off on any shots of Kong in this movie, so we better get some good shots of Kong in the trailer.
Sure, and of course, again, the other really great thing, I got to tell you, I think the simple equation to a really great Godzilla fight and a really great Godzilla movie, quite simply, Tiki, is King versus King. Okay. Mm-hmm. King of the Monsters versus King Ghidorah.
I mean, in this movie, it's literally like they're literally kind of playing a game of King of the Hill.
Pretty much.
Or, King of the Volcano in more accurate terms.
Pretty much. You have Godzilla versus, King of the Monsters versus King Kong, baby. King Kong. So do you want an old Tom Hiddleston or like kind of an older cast actor, which I believe you might have a theory on?
I am predicting that we get an older actor just because we have Corey Hawkins' character briefly appear, and neither Dragon or I noticed this, but Dr. Houston Brooks, Corey Hawkins' character, John Goodman's assistant in Kong Skull Island appears. Joe Morton apparently plays an older Dr. Houston Brooks. So I think just by that logic, it'd be weird to have like an old age makeup Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston, but Corey Hawkins is a different actor. I think they need to just all be older actors, or else it can kind of get weird.
Sure.
But regardless, let's talk about the human characters that might be in play for Kong Skull Island or Kong versus Godzilla. Like, let's kind of like run down a potential cast list here.
Well, Dr. Chen's probably going to be it because again, she's kind of like the main. Well, she's going to be probably the main face of Monarch, probably. I guess. And of course, maybe a Mothra connected. We want to throw Mothra. I don't know. The point being, like a little satellite. It looks like a post-credit satellite Mothra's come. I don't know. The point being, Dr. Chen, I think, is going to be in it.
What do you think of Millie Bobby Brown and/or Kyle Chandler?
Well, now we're getting to kind of that Glass territory where we have a few movies here. We're going to have these characters set up, and there's a question like if they're going to be in it, how big a role? Because if we're looking at like on a Glass way, I think Millie Bobby, at least one character per movie, and I feel Millie Bobby Brown will by that logic, would definitely have to be in it because again, one Vera Farmiga, regrettably. I tell you one thing, it's always so hard for me to watch Vera Farmiga die in her movies. You know, it just always bums me out, die in her things. But at least again, awesome death. So like one of those memorable deaths in one show, and of course here, very memorable death and sort of thing. She talks, she tough talks King Ghidorah, which by the way, earlier on, Donovan Martin had a really great Farmiga quote for us here, where well, I mean, basically a phrasing with what we've been saying here. I'm pretty sure it was like something along the lines of, "Oh, here we go, very bad, Godzilla." Like whacking him on the nose with a newspaper. They're like, very bad, Godzilla.
I mean, Donovan, that's pretty much our fantasy for this movie in a nutshell.
So the point being, Vera Farmiga not being a non-player. The question is, if do they want to get? I'll tell you this. I think it's going to be between Millie Bobby Brown or Kyle Chandler. If they're going to pick one of those guys, it's going to be one of them.
We're going to go with Millie Bobby Brown over Kyle Chandler.
That would be the smart play, in my opinion, too. Yeah. But then again,
Millie Bobby Brown has more of an emotional connection because she lost her mother, and like I said, I feel like if I was a screenwriter, I'd go with like kind of the the whole connection of like the last thing she said to her mother, or one of the last things she says is she calls her mother a monster before her mother dies. Like if I was a screenwriter, I could milk some emotional mileage out of that.
I still don't know how. I always remember she said some stuff while she was like her mother was. Never mind. I think she found her mother after the death.
No, she does. I'm just saying it's not the very last thing she says, but it'd still be lingering in there.
Well, T, here's the thing. As much as I'd like Millie Bobby Brown to come back, I got to be honest. If it's between the two of them, I mean, they really did set up Kyle Chandler as like he's going to be the next.
That's true. That's true.
That makes me think, and again, I don't know if that's necessarily a thing I'm jazzed about.
I mean, I don't necessarily see why both of them couldn't come back.
I mean, sure, no, yeah, I guess you're right. The point being, if we have to represent at least two of the franchises, the point I think Godzilla's kind of locked in key. Right? You have at least 2 to 3 characters that we can probably somehow going to come back.
What are the Dragon over under a 20% chance that we see an Aaron Taylor Johnson role?
Well, here's the thing. I know why he wasn't in this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he wanted to come back if Gareth Edwards was coming back, so that's why that didn't happen.
So I would say it's an under.
Yeah, I doubt he's coming back. I mean,
anything else in the first movie that could randomly pop up?
Well, again, Sally Hawkins unfortunately is gone, so that's probably a no-go. I mean, I don't think we're gonna go after Wade. Come on, I mean, no, I doubt. All right, I highly doubt anyone from the first movie will be coming back.
Question is, the Kong Skull Island characters. Are we going to see? I think at the very least we're going to see Tom Hiddleston's character.
Yeah, probably. Very least Tom Hiddleston.
I don't think they're gonna want to bring back Brie Larson's character for a multitude of reasons.
Probably, look, end of the day, it's probably gonna be Tom Hiddleston and the character you mentioned who was in this movie. I think that'd be the smart.
All right.
Maybe if they're Sam. No, never mind. Forget. No, it doesn't work at all. Okay. So,
what about any other monsters besides?
Well, here's the thing.
Godzilla.
Okay, I'll tell you this. Based on the post-credit scene, I posit that here's what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to be Godzilla versus King Kong, and then Ghidorah is going to show up before they really kind of finish each other off. It's going to be a team up against Ghidorah. Because Ghidorah, they found Ghidorah's head, which means Ghidorah can regenerate a full body.
Right, yeah.
Or there's another route they could go. Do that or Mecha Ghidorah. But let me put it to you this way, right?
I was thinking Mecha Ghidorah, but
I don't want Mecha Ghidorah before we get Mecha Godzilla.
That's what I'm saying, and I honestly think the next, I honestly think if the movies keep going beyond Kong versus Godzilla, which honestly I think is kind of questionable at this point because this movie's really not making a ton of money. So I think it's possible that the franchise just ends on Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
If it keeps going, I think doing Mecha Godzilla and Mecha Ghidorah and all that stuff is a logical next step in the franchise. I really want Mecha Godzilla.
I mean, that Kong versus Godzilla is going to make a lot of money, though. Again, we've seen versus movies make a lot of money because, again, people want to see. It's fight night. People want to go see what happens. They want to see who wins, even though it's the foolish question of.
I mean, yeah, sure, but I mean, this movie was kind of a fight night movie too, and it's not really making a I mean, it
Well,
was
no, Tiki, that I'm talking. We're talking price.
lighting the world on fire by any means.
This is a monster. This is like a it's in the vein of Pacific Rim where again we have like kaiju battles and they're cool to see and that's great and all. But what I'm saying specifically is prize fights, man. Prize fights is a
Right,
different
right.
category. Whether they're good or not, people want to see and everyone thinks they're going to have a definitive winner, which of course is never the case. Freddy versus Jason, one winks at decapitating, the other one. You know what I mean? It's just it always it's never no one ever even like some of my favorites like Hulk versus Wolverine. Not that it's a full length feature, but like the shorts. They're not going to tell you who wins because you're going to have like a whole sect of people are going to be ticked off at you. It's going to be vague, and again, that supports like Ghidorah coming into play in some way, shape, or form. All I know, Teague, is the next bucket list thing I have with Godzilla would be Mecha Godzilla. That's the one I really want.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you there.
I could have one thing, but again, if they never get the Mecha Godzilla, I guess they could always have like a kind of a mecha constructed Ghidorah from the bad guys. They kind of reconstruct Ghidorah and kind of help them speed up the process with some mecha enhancements. If they want to sidestep.
You know,
otherwise,
the interesting thing about the Mecha Godzilla stuff is like how would they differentiate it from Pacific Rim?
Well,
I mean, at the very least, I feel like they'd have to find a way to do Mecha Godzilla and still have the characterization for Mecha Godzilla somehow be animalistic.
it's a fair point,
and that'd be tricky to pull off. I'm not saying it's possible.
I could posit this, but there's a big risk of a retread here because again, traditionally, if I can recall, there's this character called Destroyer. Destroyer essentially was the one that actually did the deed and killed Godzilla. Now, again, Godzilla was killed and essentially was about to overload, and then they kind of put him on ice and they brought him back. So the point being, Godzilla was killed by this thing, and this thing, well, again, it was it was like a doomsday thing where they took each other out essentially. I know some people are going to say, well, the army technically took him out. It doesn't matter. Point being, Godzilla was taken out, and I'd imagine, okay, if Godzilla's taken out of the equation, we need a kaiju deterrent, which would be in the shape of Godzilla. Perhaps again, if they have the alpha male being Godzilla, we build something that is in the shape and the semblance of Godzilla, kind of maintain order. I think that would be the logic behind it. At least that would be the logic behind Mecha Godzilla. But again, we'd have to kill off Godzilla to really facilitate that, or at the very least, Godzilla. But that's the thing. That's the risk of retread. So that's anyway. One last thing I got here. Would you want Godzilla versus King Kong? Given what they did to Boston, would you want it to be in New York? Bring Kong to New York. Bear in mind, the last time we brought Godzilla to New York, it did not go well because that was '98. But still, King Kong.
I mean, honestly, my dream scenario is to actually have that fight be on Skull Island, because I feel like if it's on Skull Island, then you take away the whole Boston factor entirely. You know what I mean? I feel like Skull Island is an even playing field.
That's fair. I mean, yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, for the novelty of one of the iconic locations. Both of these guys, it's been a while since they've returned to this. I mean, in that regard. But you're right.
You're not wrong. I just, like I said, one of my big problems with this movie is the fact that the fallout was probably a little too extreme. So
the bigger question is, how does Kong get from one
place to another? Speaking of which, this is a con that a couple reviewers have mentioned. Literally everyone in this, it's like the nuke the fridge situation for sure, but I'm going to call it out anyways. All the main characters in this movie are fucking dead within months because of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, but look, I mean, you're not wrong, but at the very least, they try. Look, all I can say is, obviously it doesn't hold the real snuff here, but I'm just saying that in the logic of the movie, it's that they were far enough away the radiation was controlled enough, but obviously radiation doesn't really.
Bobby Brown is literally right in the middle of the action.
What do you want me to say? All right. Look, I acknowledge that's right. I'm just working within the internal logic of a movie where, again, we have like a villain that we don't need that's kind of ruining everything and just kind of making everything convoluted. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, lastly, I just want to kind of touch on, again, I would love a...
We do know one actor is going to be in the movie, though.
Yeah?
Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Okay.
Interesting. What was I gonna say?
You have one thing.
Oh yeah, well, this will kind of transition me into my last thing. I assume with the egg thing that Mothra is going to be in it.
Here's the thing. Again, assuming it's a question of how one-on-one they want things. But again, if they're setting up Ghidorah probably as the one to break up the fight, then yeah, why not bring in Mothra to help save the literally three monsters versus the three heads of Ghidorah? Who knows? Or
Oh,
Mecha Ghidorah, whatever the heck they're gonna do. All I know is I don't want to chance. If it were me, I wouldn't chance it with Rodan. Because that's
oh
the thing.
no, I don't.
Rodan.
If anything, I think Rodan could potentially be like a comic relief monster.
There's only one other monster I really would love to see, Tiki. In all honesty, because I want Mecha Godzilla. I want the mechas, but
Oh,
outside of the mechas, Gamera. Gamera.
oh, you're gonna have to remind me who
Okay,
Gamrot is.
Gamera was the cool. Oh yeah, Gamera was the cool like giant turtle. Remember the
Oh,
turtle like
oh,
that
I
guy? Basically,
saw. I've been hearing that one of the monsters in that big montage thing might have been Gamera, the one that kind of looks like a mountain, kind of like what they did with Detective Pikachu.
right. Oh man, I love Gamera so much, man. Well, though I shouldn't say that. Bear in mind, I know little to know that. I'm saying as aesthetically, I love Gamera. In the fights that I've seen Godzilla versus Gamera, like I don't really know Gamera like the back of my hand. I've seen Gamera appear in a few things, but Gamera's cool, man. I like Gamera.
Okay, lastly, I know it would probably never happen, but I'm honestly a big fan of Dragon. You should go back and watch some of those standalone like kaiju Mothra movies. They're really out there. But I would love a weird like Guillermo del Toro style. Like I don't even know if del Toro is the right man for the job. But just a weird Mothra Monster Island movie.
Be neat.
All right. Okay, so final thoughts. I think Dragon, you and I are pretty simpatico on our opinion of this movie. It's a fine time. There's definitely some fun to be had, and there's some cool visuals, some cool monster fights, but there's definitely a sense of flawed logic, and it's not the greatest thing in the world. But I think you and I can agree that it's a step above 2014 Godzilla. I think where you and I differentiate is I definitely think Kong Skull Island is a little bit better than this. I think it's close. I want to emphasize I think it's close, but really, like I said at the beginning here, I think John C. Riley is kind of the factor that pushes Kong Skull Island over the edge for me beyond between these two movies. But it's a fun time to be had. It's a good summer popcorn flick. It's certainly a lot better than any of the Transformers nonsense or anything like that we've gotten. I would say it's like slightly above average when it comes to popcorn action movies. So it did its job, and I am excited for the title fight.
Yeah, for me, look, it could it have been a little more direct and simple with the plot? Sure, would have helped a little, sure. But at the end of the day, it's a fun spectacle with with some true reverence for Godzilla. So again, some true blue Godzilla going on there. I mean, again, beyond just like cutting back to the humans, we still have some true blue Godzilla stuff that's kind of in the thick of things, kind of like the whole kind of the again kind of the defeat and then the triumph and returns, King versus King, a lot of good stuff going on there. You've seen the other kaiju's there, as Donovan's kind of pointed out earlier on, like they're all bowing to the king at the end there. I mean, as a show of respect. That's what it's all about. It's what the whole movie's about at the end of the day. I wish, again, personally, I wish they could just blend. Like, I kind of wish they could blend the three movies together to an extent. They're specific, at the very least, the first two Godzilla movies, because again, they both have elements that I like about it, but again, there's something not clicking in each of them. Where
Mhm.
again, if we could take like Act One of Godzilla, but actually instead of the Mutos, we have it, just be a different monster. Again, a lot of that, I don't know. That and maybe like a third act is a little bit more streamlined. If we can just take those elements, like again, like have a better streamlined ground man perspective, where again it's a simpler story. We're okay, we care about this person, and we know why, and there's a sense of again there's a build up there. That's the thing. We can just like take an act to build up Godzilla, but then we have Godzilla for the rest of the movie. I don't know. Point being, The point being, I still don't think we've had the perfect movie yet. I'm hoping I'm rooting for like Kong and Kong versus Godzilla would be the one. I really am. But as it stands right now, it's not as thought. Look, at the end of the day, I don't think it's as thoughtful as the first movie, but I think it has better action. It's got a better scale. It's befitting of a Godzilla sequel, which again may not be the most dazzling, capture all the love of, again, like not saying the 2014 Godzilla, but like the original Godzilla, or just Godzilla as the whole concept. But this, by the same token, again, it does capture like the essence of the characters. You're seeing him again. He's doing stuff, and you're rooting for him. That's what it is at the end of the day, and I think it serves its purpose very well in that regard.
Okay, so thanks so much to Donovan for joining us in the chat. And tomorrow night, Dragon, we are doing our May movie memoirs, and I am very excited about that one because I have been to the movies quite a lot this past month. So gonna have a lot to report back on. Once again, my my catch-up list is a little dry. I've got a couple things in there, but saw a lot of stuff in theater, some good, some bad, and we're gonna break it all down. So till then, folks, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Bad Godzilla back in the ocean.
Bad Godzilla, very, very bad Godzilla.